with Microsoft Teams. This course includes creating a team and channels, working with files, tracking tasks, and of course, keyboard shortcuts. I'm Heather Severino, a Microsoft certified trainer and a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional for Microsoft Teams. Join me in my LinkedIn Learning course on managing projects with Microsoft Teams.
A team is a group of people working together toward a common goal, such as a project. Team members often collaborate quickly with each other, a process Microsoft refers to as high-velocity teamwork. Before we get into organizing the team for the work that needs to be done for a project, let's create a team workspace. For this course, I'll be working from the desktop Teams app, unless otherwise noted. Teams is available as an online app that's part of Microsoft 365 and as a mobile app available for Android and Apple iOS devices. Once logged into the desktop Teams app, it's going to look like this. To create a team, you will need to be in the Teams area. That's the default area that it takes you to when you log in. From this Teams area, let's go ahead and select Join or Create a Team. Now, before we create a team, it's worth noting that your organization may manage creating a team and setting a team up for you. If so, your process for requesting a team and setting it up may differ. Okay. So from here, let's go ahead and select Create Team. You'll notice that you can create a team from scratch, which means you're going to have a named teamed workspace. You can also include who you would like to invite to that workspace, and you'll have one channel called General. If you have a Microsoft group or another existing team that you would like to base a new team off of, then you can select from a group or a team. There's also a template area. That's the area here called Select from a Template. And there are many templates that you can select to create a team from. If we scroll back up to the top of this section, there's one for managing a project. So let's go ahead and select Manage a Project. It's going to show you how many channels it will set up and how many apps it will be configured for use within this team. Notice there are 4 channels: General, Announcements, Resources, and Planning. And the apps, these are apps that are commonly used while you are managing a project and tracking those tasks and hitting those milestones and taking meeting notes. Let's go ahead and select Next to move to the next step. Next, we need to establish what kind of team this is. A private team is something that an owner can manage who is part of that team, the members and the guests that they would like to invite to work in that team, and also manage what they're able to do in that team. If you're the person that is setting this team up, you're automatically made an owner that can manage the team. If we choose public, this is something that anyone within the organization can search for, and they can join the team themselves. Let's make this a private team. Okay, now we need to give the team a name. You'll want to keep it short, but you want it to be something meaningful that helps anyone else that has many teams in their list to know which team they're looking for that they need to go and find some information in or communicate in. Let's call this Red 30 Tech IoT Conference. You can also include a description. We'll go ahead and skip that for now. The names of the channels that we saw before, those 4 channels, we can customize those. If we select the arrow next to Customize Channels, that expands the list of the channels where you can type in and change the names of those channels. We'll go ahead and leave those with the way that they're set up right now. Okay, let's go ahead and select Create, and it is now setting up the team. You'll get a notification that it's creating the team. And if we take a peek over here in the background where the team's listing is, here is the Red 30 Tech IoT Conference team. And so far it has set up one channel. It's still in the process of creating the other channels. Let's go ahead and close this notification for now. This new team that's being set up right now, because it's a private team, it can have up to 25,000 members. While it's unlikely you'll have that many people working on a project, it's good to know how many a team can accommodate for other needs. Public and org-wide team can have up to 10,000 members. And that's how you can create a new team based on a template. A team can be set up as a private team where people need permission to join it, or owners of the team can invite them to be a member or a guest of the team. A team can also be set up to be a public team where anyone can join that team, or as an org-wide team where everyone within your organization automatically joins that team. We're going to create a project team from scratch, and we're going to make this a private team. To start the process, while we're in the Teams area of the Teams app, we'll select Join or Create a Team. Next, we'll select Create Team. From the Create a Team menu, we'll select From Scratch. Here's where we decide what kind of team this will be. The two choices we have are private or public. Let's select private. Next, we need to give the team a name. Since this is the second Red 30 Tech Makers conference, we'll go ahead and give it a name similar to that. The description is optional. We'll go ahead and skip that for now. Let's select Create. Next, we can invite people to be members or owners of this team by adding their names to this field. Let's add a couple of colleagues. We'll start by adding Jonathan Perfington. Notice as I start to type the name in, it recognizes that colleague of mine from the Active Directory that's part of the organization. I'll go ahead and select his name from the list. Select Add. We'll start adding another colleague as well. We'll go ahead and click in that Start Typing a Name or Group area. Let's add Leslie. We'll select Leslie's name from the list and then select Add. Notice that you can also add a group. That's a distribution group, and that would invite everyone that's a part of that group to be a member of this team. Now, by default, when you invite people to a team, they are assigned as a member. That's the permissions of what they can and cannot do within the channels of the team. It's always a great idea that you have a backup owner of your team. And I'm going to go ahead and promote Leslie to be an owner by selecting member and then selecting owner. Now we can see that Leslie is an owner and Jonathan is a member. Okay, let's go ahead and select close. And over here on the left side, here is the new team that was created, and it has one channel to help us get started that is labeled General. And that's how you can create a new team from scratch. If you're new to Microsoft Teams, you might be wondering, what is a channel? A channel is an area for a specific topic to be discussed, files to be worked on together, and for online meetings to take place. If you create a team from scratch, it comes with one channel to get you started. It's called General. It has a few tabs set up within the channel workspace. You have Post for those persistent threaded conversations that other members can be a part of as well. You have Files, which is a place for you to upload existing files that you would like everyone to be able to view and work on, or to create new files that everyone can view and work on. You also have Wiki, which is a free-form area for you to add content. This is a great place for you to add frequently asked questions about what's happening in this channel or what this channel was set up for, as well as the overall team and who to contact if they have questions about settings or something specific that they need. Before you start creating additional channels within a team, think of how you want to break out specific areas for a project. Then give that channel a descriptive name, something that has to do with the topic, the type of work, or the content that this channel is all about. This name will make it easier for team members and guests, especially if they're new to Teams or new to this project, to find the content that is needed, the right place to ask a question, and what the channel is set up to achieve. Your project team may include channels such as schedule, logistics, resources, budget, planning, testing, implementation, and training. Okay, let's set up a couple of channels. We're going to start by locating the ellipses next to the team name. By selecting this, it takes you to the More Options menu. Next, let's go ahead and select Add Channel. We're going to give the channel a name. Let's call this one Feedback. You can include an optional description. We'll skip that for now. We'll also want to make sure that we set up the privacy correct for this. This particular channel is something that I want to have available to all team members and guests. I'm going to leave it with the default, which is standard. You'll notice in this drop-down menu, the other choice is to make it private. And we're going to set one of those channels up as well. So let's leave this as standard for now. Before I select Add, I want to point out that you can check this box to have this channel automatically show up in the list of channels for the team for everyone that is a part of this team. If you don't have this checked, it's going to go into the Hidden Channels area. And if you take a peek over here in our team list here, notice that some of these teams show 3 hidden channels. 1 hidden channel. That's what it would look like It would be part of that area. They'd have to click on that hidden channel area to view everything that is hidden within the team, and then they can show the channel. By having this checked, because it's something new, I want to make sure that everyone has awareness there's a new channel here that they may want to go and access and start working in. Of course, each member and each guest can choose which things they want to show and which things they want to hide going forward. Okay, let's select Add. It's adding that channel, and then it's going to take us directly to that channel. So notice over here, we are currently viewing the feedback channel, and this channel contains the same 3 tabs: Posts, Files, and Wiki. Let's set up a private channel. For this, we're going to go back to the More Options menu for the team, select Add Channel, give the channel a name. We'll call this Sponsors. Again, we can include that optional description. We'll skip it for now. And for the privacy, we're going to select this field and we're going to change it to private. Notice that it says specific teammates have access. Okay, let's select that. We'll select Create, and we have one more step. And this is an optional step. Notice I could click skip, but I do want to add a couple of members. And the reason you might skip this is if you want to add some content, set up some of the additional tabs, maybe some apps or some other connected information within that channel before you start inviting people to that channel. But I'm going to add Leslie to this. I'm going to start typing Leslie's name in, select her name from the list, select Add, and it's going to make Leslie a member of this channel. I also want her to be an owner of this. I'm going to change that from member to owner. And now she's an owner. So I could add additional people that I'd like to invite as well, but I'm just going to add Leslie to help me get this set up for now. I'll select Done. And here is the Sponsors private channel that we just set up. Notice the padlock icon next to that. That's an indicator that this is a private channel. This private channel will not show up in the team listing for anyone else if they are not a member, if they're not someone that has been invited to be a part of this channel. The way the permissions work for this channel is that it creates a separate SharePoint site collection for this channel, and that's how it's able to manage membership and content rights within it. This Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2 team, it has a separate SharePoint site that it's managing all of the content for all of those standard channels that are part of that team. And that's how you can create channels within a team. As a project goes through different stages, you may need to add additional members or guests to the project. Let's start by selecting More Options for the team. Next, we're going to select Add Member. To add someone from your organization, start typing their name. I'm going to add my colleague Chong. As I start to type Chong's name, his name appears in the list. I'll select it from the list and then select Add. By default, it makes Chong a member, but I could change him to an owner if needed. If your organization allows external people to participate in a team as a guest, you can invite them with their email address. I have an email address copied to the clipboard. I'm going to go ahead and paste it into this field, select that name, then select Add. Notice that next to Philip's name, it has guest in parentheses, and over to the right, it indicates that this is a guest, and I'm not able to change that to member or owner. Okay, I'm ready to add both of these members to this team. I'm going to select Close. And that's how you can invite members and guests to a team. If you're an owner of a team, you can manage the team settings and permissions. We'll get started by locating the team that we need to manage. We're going to select the More Options next to the name of the team. And from that menu, let's select Manage Team. There are different tabs here at the top for you to manage certain areas related to this team. It takes us to Members. Here within Members, we can add a new member by selecting Add Member, and then typing in our colleague's name, name of a group, or if your organization allows guests to access a team, you can type in that person's email address, then select Add. Let's go ahead and close out of this menu for now. In the same members area, notice that it has collections of the different types. Notice that it has different categories or sections. We have owners, and then we have another section labeled members and guests. There are currently 2 owners, and if we expand members and guests, we can see that we have 2 members and a guest. If you'd like to promote someone from being a member to an owner, go ahead and select the drop-down arrow next to member that's in line with that person's name, and then choose owner. Notice that Chong is no longer listed in the members and guests area, and if we scroll up, Chong is now listed within the owners area. Okay, let's move on over here to pending requests. This is where you'll find requests for those that are asking to join a private team. As a team owner, you get to either accept or decline that request. We don't have anyone that's requesting that right now. We'll continue on over here to the apps area. This will list all of the apps that have been set up to work within the team channels. There might be Microsoft and third-party apps listed here. If you want to uninstall one of these apps located in the list, and next to the name of that app, you'll find uninstall. It's what looks like the trash can icon. You'll select that and it will uninstall it so that it's no longer available to work within the channels of this team. If you'd like to learn more about apps that are available, you can select more apps here in the upper right corner. It's going to take you to the apps area, which is also here on the navigation rail. That's just a different way for you to get to the apps area. All right, continuing on, let's take a look at the next tab. I'm going to go to this drop-down list and select channels. This takes you to the listing of all the channels that have been set up within this team. Notice there are 3 listed in this active area: general, feedback, and sponsors. It displays who those channels are available for as far as who can view those. So we can see that feedback is available for me as well as for the members. Sponsors, though, is only available for me because it is a private channel. So over here in the type column, you'll be able to see which channels are private and which ones are considered standard channels. And right now we don't have any channels, so this section will not expand. Here at the bottom, there are 2 deleted channels. And by expanding this section, we can see those channels and we can even restore those to make them active once again. Okay, let's go back to the list here. And next we're going to go to settings. Settings is where you can manage the settings for the team overall, including adding a team picture. You can also manage member permissions from here, what they can and cannot do within the channels or within this team, including things like, can they create and update channels? Can they add and remove certain apps? Can they also delete their own messages or edit their own messages? Guests are restricted quite a bit more than owners and members, and I'm going to expand guest permissions so that you can see by default, they're not allowed to create and update channels, and they're not allowed to delete channels unless you go to this area and check these boxes. App mentions are a great way to make sure you're getting the right audience to have awareness about a message, to get notified about that message based on their settings. If we expand the app mentions area and scroll down a bit to see that, you'll notice that members have the option to use the @team or @team name to notify everyone on the team. They also have the option to use the @channel or @channel name to notify everyone who has that mentioned channel in their channels list. If you'd like someone to be able to join your private project team, you can enable a team code. We'll expand team code, and then by selecting generate, this is the code they can use to access that team. Let's go ahead and collapse this section down and we'll move on. There's a lot of fun stuff that's included with your team, like emojis, memes, GIFs, and stickers. This is where you can manage which of these you would like to make available. By default, they're all enabled. And tags. We mentioned that you can manage tags if you're the owner. You can create tags and notify certain people based on that tag. Well, this area for tags is where you can choose who gets to manage tags. The default is team owners can manage tags. You can also allow tags to be generated automatically from other apps such as Shifts. All right, let's go back to the list here at the top of where the tabs are, and we're going to wrap this up with analytics. Analytics is a great way for you to understand the activity of what's happening within a team. Notice here that we are viewing all channels for the last 7 days. We can see that there's 5 users that have been working in here. They've been working with 8 apps. What's the file size for the storage that we have here? And what kind of engagement do we have going on with conversations, posts and replies and mentions and reactions? You can also go and take a look at a specific channel and change that time frame to get a better idea of the activity that is happening there. To exit the team settings, you can just select a channel that you'd like to go to, and that takes you out of settings. And that's how you can manage your team settings and permissions.
Each channel of a team comes with a Files tab. This is a folder that is part of the SharePoint site document library that's connected to a team. Files can be uploaded or created right here. They can also be organized within a folder structure, and you'll notice that there are 3 folders listed here: presentations, session selection, and social media. Each of these has a burst icon just to the left of the title, indicating that these are new folders. Now, at the top, you'll notice that there is a ribbon that you can also work with. This is a great way for you to be able to upload files or an entire folder of files directly to this area. And you can also create new folders and files. And we'll check that out here in a minute. All right, so let's go into this session selection folder. Notice there are no files there yet. And just as it indicates, you can also drag files from your desktop or from another folder you have open directly to this area and upload them that way. But we're going to create something new. So here at the top, let's go ahead and select New, and then select Excel Workbook. We'll need to give the workbook a name, and then select Create. It takes us to the Session Tracker workbook that was just created, but we haven't left the Teams app. This is Excel for the web that's part of Microsoft 365. We could start adding headings and start tracking all of those sessions right here without leaving the Teams app. Now let's go ahead and close this file for now. And that takes us right back to the speaker channel that we were in, into the files area, and right into this session selection folder where Session Tracker was created. Now to get back to where we started, we can go ahead and select speakers, and that takes us back to the main level. The ribbon here at the top also has other capabilities that could be useful to you, like syncing files locally to work with on your device, copying a link to get to this files area within the channel, and downloading files and folders locally to your device. And that's how you can work with your documents in a channel. If you want to grab your project team's attention about a file being added to a channel, you can attach it to a new channel conversation or to a conversation reply. Let's start by going to the team and specifically the channel where we want to have this conversation and attach the file. Let's go over here to the catering channel. Now, within this catering channel, you'll want to make sure that you're in the posts area. That's where all of the channel conversations happen. And you'll notice that there are not any conversations that have been started here yet, so let's start a new one. We'll select New Conversation down here at the bottom. This gives us an area to type a message, and we're going to start this message with an @mention. I want to make sure that I catch the attention of everyone that is following and working within this catering channel, so I'm going to mention the channel name. So I'll type an @mention, and then I'll start typing the name of that channel, which happens to be catering. I'll select it from the list, and then I'll enter my message. Okay, we're ready to attach the file. We're going to look at the toolbar just below, and we're looking for the paper clip that's attached, and we'll go ahead and select that. Now, if this is a file that you've worked with recently, you can select Recent, and it's going to show you the history of the files, and you can pick it from there. If it's a file that exists in another team and channel, then you could browse out to where that file is, and you can share it from there. If it's a file that's in your OneDrive document library, you've got a couple options for that, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute. And of course, if the file is saved locally on your computer, then you can upload it from there and make it part of this files area for this channel. All right, we're going to select OneDrive, and then we're going to browse out to where that file is saved. It happens to be in this Red 30 Tech Conference folder, and select the file. Now, you'll notice that I can't select more than one file, and that's for a reason. I can either share a link here with this conversation, which means that I'm giving everyone access to this file from the OneDrive document library. It's still going to be hosted there, stored there. Or I can upload a copy, which means the original that's here in OneDrive will stay here in OneDrive. I'm just making a copy that I want everyone to work from here within this catering channel. And that's what we're going to do. So let's select Upload a Copy. You'll see a green bar here at the bottom.
As it is uploading that file, it is complete. I can, of course, format or make any other changes I need to for this conversation. And once I'm ready to send it, I'll go ahead and select send. I'm going to scroll down. And here is the conversation that has been started with this banner that helps to draw attention that there is a file attached here. And anyone reading this conversation can select that to go to the file. And I'd like to call your attention over here to the files area. Let's go to files. That is the same file that was attached to that conversation. So when a file is uploaded to the conversation, it is also uploaded to this files area. So in the post area, it will grab their attention that there's a file here, but if they're looking in the files area, they can also access it from here. Some conversations may not need to be available for everyone to read within a channel. If you need to have a conversation with a smaller group of team members, you can use chat. And for this, we'll switch from the Teams area to chat. Now, here within chat, you'll see existing conversations in this panel. We don't have any listed at the moment. And to start a new chat, we'll go ahead and select New Chat right here. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Control-N. All right, that starts a new chat. Next, we'll enter the names of who we want to chat with. This may be colleagues within your organization. It might also be external people that you work with by typing their email address in, a group, or if you're working with tags, you can also use tags. I'd like to start a conversation with my colleague Chong. I'll type part of his name in and then pick his name from the list. And if I need to add additional people, I would type additional names in this area. Okay, let's go ahead and start composing a new message. So in the type a new message area, we'll go ahead and type that message in. And before I select this attach to attach a file to it, I'm going to go ahead and pop this message out and then make it full screen. And this is a great tip for you if you have multiple monitors or a way that you want to kind of snap things into certain areas on your screen so that you can be looking at different things at the same time. All right, so now we've got this chat full screen. Let's go ahead and select the paperclip that's down here on the toolbar below the message. And you'll notice that you can attach a file from your computer or from OneDrive. Now, uploading from your computer is going to upload that file to your OneDrive document library and share it from there with whoever's a part of this chat conversation. And if I select OneDrive, which is what we're going to do, it's going to display all of the folders and files within the OneDrive document library. The file that I need happens to be in this Red 30 Tech Conference folder, so let's navigate to there. And then I'm going to select this presentation and then select share. You'll notice that I have one thing selected as it indicates over here before I select share. I could check these other circles if I wanted to share multiple files within this chat message. We're just going to share this one for now. So let's go ahead and select share. All right, so now it is attached to the message. I have not sent it yet. And before I do, notice underneath the name of this file, anyone with the link can edit. If I want to change the permissions for this is a great opportunity for me to select this arrow and then manage the permissions for this link that I'm sending through. I'm going to select specific people. So only Jennifer Dawson, which is the account I'm logged in with, and Chong Nguyen have access to this. I do want Chong to be able to edit, so I'm going to leave this allow edit checked and then select apply. All right, so that has updated the link permissions. We're ready to send this. Let's go ahead and select send. We have a notification in the lower right corner that that file has been shared. Let's go ahead and close that notification. Here's what the message will look like while Chong is reading it. I'm going to go ahead and close this pop-out message. That takes me back to my chat area. And what I'd like to point out is that in this chat, imagine this chat is going on for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month. And one of the people that are part of this chat need to reference this presentation and get back to it. There could be a lot of scrolling, right? If there's a lot of conversation happening here, there could be a lot of scrolling to get back to that file. At the top of this area, notice where it says 3 more. Yours might have the tabs listed side by side depending on the size of your screen and the resolution you have it set to. I'm going to select this and notice that one of the tabs here is Files. By selecting Files, this takes us to a space that is dedicated to all the files that have been shared within this private chat. It's a shortcut, right, to get to all the files over time that have been shared, and an easy way to access those files. So your chat can start to become a personal workspace for you to collaborate with other folks. It doesn't have to necessarily take place within a team channel for things that do relate to your project. And that's how you can attach a file in a private chat. If you need to move a file or files from your OneDrive library to a specific team channel, and you don't necessarily need to send a conversation message about it, there is a tool that can help. We're going to start right here within the Teams app, and we're going to select Files from the rail. That takes us to all of the different files that this account has been working with within the Teams application. Right now, the default view is all of the files recently that have been accessed or edited. And we can change that to Microsoft Teams. And this shows a listing of all the files that the account that I'm logged in with has access to across the different team channels. If there's something that has been downloaded, you can go right here and keep track of those file downloads. Don't have anything listed at the moment. The cloud storage area, notice that it says OneDrive. This is the OneDrive document library that is part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. Now I'm going to go ahead and select OneDrive, and these are all of the folders and files that are part of that document library. So you don't have to switch from Teams to go out to your OneDrive document library. You can access it directly from the Teams app. Now, if we needed to move a file or two or three, you can select those files. But before we do that, I want to point out the ribbon here at the top, and notice that it says New, Upload, Sync, Copy Link, Open in OneDrive. Once you select a file, and I'm going to check the circle here next to Speaker Template, notice that that ribbon contextually changes. It's updating to show what you can do with those selected files if there's more than one, or a selected folder or folders. Now, if I wanted to move or copy more than one file, I can of course check the circles next to each of these files and then proceed to this ribbon and select Move or Copy. I do want to just move one file for now, so I'm going to uncheck those others and just keep this speaker template checked. You'll notice that Move or Copy is not listed here on the ribbon because there's so many things I can do with one file that's selected. I need to go over here to the ellipses, which is the other things you can do with the selected items. From this menu, we then have the choice to move or copy. I'd like to keep this original in the OneDrive document library, so I'm going to select Copy. This takes us to the Copy To menu, and I don't want to copy it to a different place within OneDrive. I want to copy it to a specific team channel, so I'm going to select Browse Teams and Channels. Next, I'll select the name of the team, which happens to be this Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2. From here, we'll go ahead and select the speakers channel. That is the folders that you see listed here. These are each of the channels. This is how your folders are structured in the document library that's part of that SharePoint site that's connected to the team. So we'll select speakers. Within here, if there's a specific folder I want this to go into, I can select that. So it happens to be this presentation subfolder. I'll select that. All right, and then I'll select Copy. And I get a notification that that file has been copied. We'll go ahead and close that notification. And that's how you can move files from your OneDrive document library to a team channel without leaving the Teams app. Project files that have been either uploaded or created within a team channel can be accessed and edited at the same time by everyone that is a part of that team. Here we have a Red 30 Tech Conference schedule. It's a workbook that's stored in the Schedule channel. And I'm going to open this up so that you can see what this experience is. What I'm referring to is what's known as co-authoring, co-editing, or real-time editing of a file. All right, let's go ahead and open up this file. At the top of this Excel web app, notice that there's a picture here. And when I hover my mouse over it, it shows me more information about who is here working in this file. It's Leslie Richardson. And within this card, I can see that she's editing cell F17. If I didn't already have that in view, just as you can see it here on the screen, I could go directly to that location. Great shortcut because Leslie might be editing cell Z1100, and that could take me some scrolling time to get there. All right, so here is where Leslie is working, and notice that the same purple circle with her initials is what is going around the cell that is currently being worked on. Now, as Leslie is making changes to this, I'd like you to notice what's happening here within the workbook. So maybe she's updating sessions to something else like feedback roundtables. Once she presses enter, you'll notice that that cell has been updated. And if there's formatting changes that happen as well, things like, maybe centering the text within the cell to match the alignment for the other things, or maybe giving it a different background fill color, you'll notice those happening in real time also. This is what the co-authoring experience looks like as someone else is making changes. And for your colleagues that are in here working on this project file as well, they're going to have the same experience. They'll see the names or the initials or pictures up here of everyone that's working in this file. They can go directly to that area and see those changes happen in real time. Now, as those changes are happening, it's auto-saving the changes as versions of this file. Because this file resides in a cloud-enabled library, it's able to do that. It's being saved in the SharePoint document library that's part of the SharePoint site that's connected to this team. You'll notice we don't have a save button up here anywhere in this web app. And if we go to the File tab, we don't have save as a choice in here. We do have save as if we wanted to save a separate copy of this file or save it in a different format. I'm going to go back out to this document. Keep in mind, though, if you're using OneDrive to sync your SharePoint files and you're making changes to this file while your computer is offline, it's not going to get merged into that version history until you get back online again. Once you're online, all of those changes will get merged at once. And that is how you can co-author with others in a file. When files such as an Excel workbook, a PowerPoint presentation, or a Word document reside in a cloud document library, such as OneDrive or SharePoint, any edits made are automatically saved as versions. The version history can be viewed and managed directly from the associated web app, the associated desktop app, or from the SharePoint or OneDrive document libraries where the file resides. I'd like to show you how you can access this directly from the web app. So here we are, we're viewing the conference schedule workbook, and we're viewing this from the Excel web app that's embedded within the Teams app. If you're accessing version history from the desktop app, such as Excel 365, you'll follow the same process. Let's go to File. And from the Backstage menu, info might be listed directly here on the Backstage for you. Because of the resolution that I have my computer set to for this course, I have to go to the More File options and then select Info. From here, we'll select Version History. You'll notice that it's not showing us a version from the Version History pane yet. We have some instructions here to select that from the pane over here on the right. This version at the top is the latest version that everyone is making their edits in. And I can tell that there were changes made about 16 minutes ago by Leslie and by Jennifer. If I select this, over here to the left, we are now taking a look at that version. If I want to see more details of all of the changes that happened in that collected saved version, I can select this arrow next to the timeline there, and it shows me each of the changes. If I want to view that change, I can select it from the list, and it's going to take me to what that change looked like, what changed in that version. And anytime I can say I don't want to see the changes, and I can turn that off or turn that back on. I'm going to collapse this version back down, and we're going to go back to the previous version. This is version 1. And it was about 38 minutes ago. And I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go to that. And this is the version that we're working with. Now, at the top, I'd like to point out that you can save a copy, which means this version I could save as a separate Excel workbook. Because this is not the latest version in the history, I can also choose to restore this workbook to this version. I'm not going to lose any of the version history, so I would still have version 1 and version 2 here, but I would now have a version 3 if I were to click Restore, making this the version that I want everyone to view and to make their changes to going forward. When you are working with a version, let's go back to this more recent version. Notice that you can also step through the changes by working with these arrows. It's going to highlight where the change was made so that you can see what that change was a little bit easier. Now, to get out of this version history, we'll select Back to Document in the upper left corner. And that takes us back to the latest version that everyone is viewing and editing. And that's how you can manage file history directly from the web app or the desktop app. If there's files in another SharePoint document library that are relevant to the project work being done in a team channel, you don't need to move or copy those files to that channel in order to access them. Instead, you can add a SharePoint document library as a tab within a channel. Here's how it works. Here we are in the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2. This is the second one that we're having, and we'd like to be able to bring in the files from the first conference. So we're just going to place those in the general channel, but you could do this in any channel within your team. So you want to be in that channel where you want to add the library. And then at the top here, next to the existing tabs, we're going to select the plus sign. That takes us to the Add a Tab menu. Within this Add a Tab menu, there are a few things in here that relate to SharePoint. So you'll notice this SharePoint icon more than once in here. What we're looking for is the first one up here, Document Library. So let's go ahead and select that. It is going to show a list of what it thinks are relevant sites. So these are sites that the account I'm logged in with has access to. And if that's not one of the libraries that I want to pull in to this channel, then I could use a link if I have a link that I've copied to my clipboard. The one that I want, though, is this Red 30 Tech Makers Conference. That's the original conference. And I want to be able to have these files available to everyone working on this second conference. I'm going to select it. And before I select next, notice over here that it says post to the channel about this tab. By default, that is checked, and I encourage you to leave it checked and try it out because it's going to automatically post on your behalf a message in the post tab, a new conversation, letting everyone know there's something new here. Take a look at this tab. All right, so we'll leave that checked. We'll select next. Next, we need to select the library. You might have more than one library within your SharePoint site. For this example, you'll notice that we only have one and it's called Documents. So I'll make sure that's selected and I'll select Next. And it gives me the opportunity to change the tab name. I recommend that you do this. This generic name Document Library is not going to be very meaningful to anyone. It's not going to give them the context of what is in this library. So I'm going to change that to Original Conference Files. And then we'll select Save. And here it is. Right next to the Posts tab, here is the SharePoint library that we connected to this general channel. All of the folders and files organized just as they are if we were to go and look at that SharePoint document library in that other SharePoint site. Next, let's go over to the Posts tab. And here's the message that I mentioned to you with that check mark. This is what was posted on Jennifer's behalf to let everyone know there is a new tab here at the top of the channel. And if you select this, it takes you directly to that area. And that's how you can connect a document library to help your project team have all the files they need. You can spend a lot of time looking for communications, files, and other information in team channels and private chats. I want to show you how you can use search to refine and get just what you're looking for. We're going to be using the search box, and you'll notice that that's at the top of the application, and right now it simply says the word search. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I'd like to show you a shortcut, though, if you're looking for content within a specific channel or a private chat. For example, right now I'm in the catering channel and I'm viewing the posts area. That's the conversations that are happening here. If I'd like to find something that matches a keyword or a key phrase, I can use the keyboard shortcut Control F. Let's go ahead and press that. Now, Control F is a universal keyboard shortcut that you can use in many Office applications such as Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, and it's even a shortcut that you can use in many browsers to find information in that file or on that website. Now here you'll notice when I pressed Control F, in that search box, it now says catering. That is the channel that we're looking in. And I have a blinking cursor where I can type in a word. Before I do that though, over to the left side of this search box, you'll notice / that's the /find. That's another keyboard shortcut that you can use. So if you type that / find in this search box, it brings up the same menu where you can enter the name of the area that you're looking in and then the keyword or phrase that you're looking for. Okay, let's type in the word link. Press enter. And now over on the left, where we would typically see the list of teams and the associated channels, that has been replaced with the results for what we're trying to find within the posts area of this channel. We have two results. So there are two separate conversations here that we can go to. You'll notice that this one dated November 19th. If I select it, over to the right, it takes me directly to that conversation. And of course, if I select the second result, it updates to show me that conversation. Okay, now to clear what we're searching for, let's select the X on the right side of the search box. Now, if I'd like to search for something else, I can do that right from here. Now, I haven't pressed Control F. I haven't used that /find command. I'm simply doing a keyword search. For this one, let's type in the keyword catering. You'll notice as I type that in that I do get some top hits. And the top hits are listed here that I can select and go directly to. And I also have channels that I can go to that relate to that, and files. So everywhere that it finds that keyword, it's going to show in bold within this list. If I want to expand the list or have a way that I can filter for better results, I'm going to press the Enter key. And now everything has been replaced with these search results. What we're seeing here, it does have everything organized by categories or areas. So we have messages, and I can even load more messages if these are not the ones that I'm looking for. And as I scroll down, matching files, of course, there's a link to load more files. And then if there are people with the name catering, they would appear here. This is the All view. And notice at the top that we have other tabs that we can select. So if I want to see all of the messages that relate to catering, here they are. What I like about the way that these search results are organized is when you're in this messages area, just below that, we have all sorts of refiners that we can use to narrow down the results of what we're looking for. So if we know that this conversation maybe is not necessarily a channel conversation, but instead a private chat, we can choose that from the type area here. If we want to look in a specific team or channel, we can type that in here. Now, I want to see everything that is from Leslie Richardson. So I'm going to go to the From area, and I'm going to start to type Leslie's name in, select her name from the list, and now I just have one response here. Now to go ahead and clear that, I'll click the X, and that takes me back to all of the messages that match catering. I can also search by date. Sometimes you might be looking for something and you're like, I know it was yesterday, or it was something that we had correspondence on this month, or it was from a specific date to a specific date. Once you're done setting these settings, you would select Apply. We'll leave that for now. Now I'm going to move on over to the right. What if it's just something that has an attachment? We'll check that box. And now we're down to 3 results. And maybe this is something that wasn't necessarily posted by an app or a bot. I can hide the apps and bots. And you'll notice now I'm down to 2 results. And then to clear everything, I'll select Clear All. All right, moving on over to people. What I like about this one is maybe it's not that catering is the person's name, but you're looking for people that work as caterers or that work in the catering department. Here you can see that we have a match. Here's Tammy's contact information, and she happens to be the catering assistant for Landon Hotel. And moving on over to files, what I really like about this one is you may remember that the file contained the word catering or had catering in the title of the file, and you know that that file happened to be a OneNote notebook or a PowerPoint presentation. Well, right from here, we can narrow the results down by going to File Type and choosing that file type. So let's go ahead and select OneNote. And now we have the one result here, which is our catering notes. You'll notice that you have some other refiners here, such as the team, where you can search for the team. You can also choose who it was modified by entering the person's name. You can work with dates for files as well, just as we did for messages. And then once you're done, you can clear everything that you've been filtering here by selecting Clear All. Now to exit this search, we'll go ahead and select the X up here at the top in the search box. And that presents us with a way to search for more messages. That's how you can use search to quickly find content in Microsoft Teams. When you open a file in Microsoft Teams, you may notice that it's opening it within the Teams app. And it's doing this by using the associated application. This is a Word document, so it's using the Word for the web application. but it's embedded within Teams. But what if you want it to open directly to the browser itself? Or if you have the desktop application installed on your device, have it open directly into that. There is a way that you can change the default setting. Let's go ahead and close this file first. And before we take a look, it's worth mentioning that I'm working in the Teams desktop application, and I do have 3 choices for that default setting. If you're working with the web application, you're going to get to that setting in the same way, but you'll only have 2 choices in that application. All right, let's go check it out. We're going to go to the upper right corner, and we're going to select the ellipses. That's the Settings and More menu, and then select Settings. From the navigation on the left, let's go ahead and select Files. Here's the file open preference, and you'll notice the default setting is Teams, and we'll go ahead and select that field, and we can change it to either desktop app or browser. Now, browser is great for viewing the document and doing some light editing. If you need to do some power editing and you want to get the most feature-rich experience, you'll want to select the desktop app, which is what we're going to do. Now, to save this setting and to close out of settings, let's select the X in the upper right corner. And that is how you can set the default setting for where a file opens from Microsoft Teams. There's many applications that help manage projects and many that also support agile models. Microsoft Project and Project for the Web work well for large or more complex projects. Microsoft Planner, which is part of Microsoft 365, in combination with Microsoft Teams, is a great solution for smaller, less complex projects. Customizing the channels of a team can make it a more flexible workspace for getting the project done. A plan, which assists with managing tasks, can be added to a team channel. And here's how. You'll start within the channel where you want to set the plan up. That happens to be the speakers channel. And at the top, we'll select Add a Tab. From the Add a Tab menu, we're looking for an app called Tasks by Planner and To Do. It happens to be here at the top of my recent section because I recently worked with it. For you, if you're looking for this, it might be in the 3rd or 4th row of this Add a Tab listing. Let's go ahead and select it, and that starts the process of setting this up. Now, if this is a new plan that we want to set up, we'll leave this selected and update the name. If there's a plan that has already been set up for this team, then you can select this area and then take a look at those existing plans, make a selection for the name of the plan, and then save it. The one that I'd like to work with, though, is not this one. I'd like to create a new one. So I'm going to select the back button, and that's going to take me back to the Add a Tab menu. I'll go back into that Task by Planner and To Do once more. And let's create a new plan. Now, the tab name Tasks doesn't really tell me what this is all about. I might want to have a plan that is specific to the speaker selection process or something that has to do with the schedule or budget, something else like that, right? So let's update this, and I'm going to call this Speaker Selection Plan. All right, before I select Save, notice that there's a check mark here that it's going to post about this new tab being added to this channel within the post area of this channel. We're going to leave that checked for now, and let's select Save. It set up the speaker selection plan. Notice here at the top, we have a new tab. You can always modify that tab. So if you select the down arrow, this is where you can rename it or remove it from the channel if needed later. I'm going to click outside of this area. And it gives us one to-do bucket to get started, a way to add a task, and a way to add additional buckets if needed. Now keep in mind, the account that I'm logged in with is the owner of this team and able to add this plan to this particular channel and then of course manage the name or remove it later. Your permissions may vary depending on the policies your organization has in place and whether you are an owner, a member, or a guest of that project type team. This plan that we just set up could also be set up in the other channels. You do not have to recreate anything, or you might choose to have separate plans that you set up as needed in the other channels of your team. A plan comes with one bucket labeled To Do. While you can start working with this bucket to add tasks right away, you might want to create your own buckets to better organize these tasks. You might want to have buckets that group tasks by focus area, phase, location, and more. Before we create some new buckets, I'd like to expand the view of this plan, and we're going to do that by going up in the upper right corner and selecting this double-headed arrow. That hides the teams listing on the left. It just gives us a little bit more area to work within this plan. Okay, let's add a new bucket. We'll select Add New Bucket. We'll type in a name for the bucket. We'll enter the name Expo, press the Enter key, and that saves the bucket name. Let's add one more bucket. We'll select Add New Bucket. We'll type in the name Sponsors, press the Enter key, and now we'll scroll back on over here. We have the To-Do bucket, Expo, Sponsors, and of course we have a way to add additional buckets if needed. Now these buckets, as you're setting them up, they do not need to stay in the order in which they were entered. So if I want to move Sponsors over, I'll left click over the name Sponsors and drag that to position it where I want it, release the mouse, and I have rearranged the buckets. That's how you can create new buckets and rearrange them to organize your plan. Once you have buckets set up within a plan, the next step is to start adding tasks. And we're going to add a task to this Sponsors bucket. So we'll locate the bucket name and then select Add Task. There's really only one thing that is needed, and that is the name of the task. But I do encourage you to at least give it a due date or an estimated due date and assign it to at least one person to make sure that that work doesn't fall through the cracks. So let's enter the task name Send Schedule to Sponsors. Then we'll select Set Due Date and give it a due date. You can pick a day from the mini calendar. You can also use the arrows to go to a previous month or to go forward to the next month. So in December, we'll go ahead and select December 6th. And then to assign it to someone, let's select Assign. You'll notice that the unassigned list, these are all the members and the guests that are a part of this team. I'm going to go ahead and assign it to Leslie. And I'm also going to assign it to Jennifer. All right, now let's click outside of this list area. And you can see that we have a due date. We have two people that are sharing this task. We have a title, so let's go ahead and add the task. Now, when you add a task, notice that the task is listed here on this card, but it brings us right to a place that we can start entering information to add another task. This essentially is a shortcut because likely if you're adding a task, you've got a list of tasks that you're going to be entering. If you don't need to add another one, just click outside of that card and it disappears. Now that we have the task saved, we can go in and add additional details. And to do that, let's go ahead and select this task card, and that opens the card. At the top, we can see which plan this task belongs to, the name of the task, when it was last modified, who it's been assigned to, and a way to assign an additional person. And we can also add labels. I'm going to select Add Label. And I'd like to show you that there are some default labels included. They have the names of the colors, and then you can see that there's one that's been updated here called Community Sponsors. And these are ways for you to have another way to have a collection of tasks. Maybe what topic do they belong to? What category do they belong to? These are tags, if you will. They're labels, but they're really kind of like tags if you're familiar with that in OneNote that gives us additional capabilities to kind of sort and filter and find all of the things that relate to a specific label. So if you want to modify one of these, you can select the pencil to the right and then change the name. I'm not going to change the name of that one for now, but I am going to select the community sponsors just from that list and then click outside of here. And there you go. We've assigned a label to this task. Now let's move on down a bit. At any time, if that bucket needs to change, you can change it from the drop-down list here. We'll leave this set to sponsors. It hasn't started yet, but once it does, we could change this to in progress. We'll leave it set to not started for now. We can change the priority. Maybe this is something that's important, urgent, or low. We'll change that to important. And since it hasn't started, we won't input the date that it started quite yet. If the due date changes, you can always modify that in the field here. Let's move on down just a little more. The notes area. This is a great place for you to include maybe the status of what's going on with this, some decisions that have been made, or if you're waiting on something from someone else. It's also a great place for you just to kind of include the progress for other people that might be working on this task with you. So great for a project manager to track what's going on, but also if this is a shared task for other folks to be in the know as well. We are going to include a checklist, so let's start creating that here. We'll click in the Add an Item area. We've got our first item, we'll press Enter. We'll add our next item. Press Enter one more time. And we've got at least a few things on our checklist once I press enter. There you go. Now notice over here in the upper right corner of the checklist area, there is a box that's checked that says show on card. We're going to leave that checked. We're going to move on down. We do need to include the Excel workbook that has to do with the schedule. So let's select add attachment. And if we scroll down just a bit, I'd like to show you, let me click that again. There we go, that you can add an attachment that's saved locally on your computer that is from your team files, or a link if you have that copied to your clipboard. The file we need happens to be in one of the team channels, so we'll select from team files. We'll scroll through the list of the channel folders, select schedule. There's the file that we need. We'll select it and then select save. We'll leave this show on card unchecked for now. You'll notice there's an area for comments as you are progressing through the work in this task. If you don't want to have those details in notes, this is a great place to have that back and forth conversation as you're working on the task. It's grayed out right now, but once we save this and start working on it, this would be a place that you can add those comments. All right, we're going to click outside of this card to save the changes that we made. And notice here is the checklist. So as changes are happening in this task and work has started, we can check off some of these things. Once everything is checked off, you can mark this as complete. Of course, you'd want to go in there and give this a start date as well if you're tracking the total time that it's taking you to complete this task. And that's how you can create and manage tasks. As a project moves along, you'll likely need to track what has been completed, what's overdue, which resources have too many tasks, which have space to take more on, many different things that you're looking at, that you're tracking, and that you're reporting on. And a plan can help you with all of that. There's different ways that you can group items, you can filter items, and different views that you can work with to help you manage this. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get more space to view this plan by hiding the team's listing. And we'll do that by selecting the double-headed arrow to expand the tab. Now, this plan that we're working with, the TechMakers plan, we're viewing this in the Planner app. The Planner app just happens to be embedded within the Teams app, making it easier. We don't have that context switching of going from the Teams app to the Planner app and back. And here we are. We're going to be working with these buckets. Now, the default view is to group tasks by buckets. We have our to-do bucket, our sponsors bucket, and our expo bucket. And you'll notice that it's in the board view. But we can change that. We can change the way that we're grouping things. We can filter for something specific, and we can change the overall view from board to list, charts, or schedule. Before we change the view, I'd like to show you how you can change the way that you're grouping items in a plan. We're going to select Group by Bucket, and from the drop-down list, let's change it to Assigned To. Notice now instead of having bucket names, we have Unassigned, Jennifer Dawson, and Leslie Richardson. This is a great view to go into if you want to make sure that you didn't forget to assign a task, because they'd all show up over here in Unassigned. It's also one that we can look at when we're trying to balance our resources and maybe reassigning some of these tasks. So if I wanted to reassign this Confirm Expo booth assignments from Leslie to Jennifer, we can just left-click, drag, and drop. And now we've moved that over to Jennifer. Now, let's take a look at how we can group in another way. So maybe we want to group based on priority. Let's see the higher priority things that we want to take care of first. Okay, now you can see that we're grouping by urgent, important, and medium. All right, the filter. Notice in this filter dropdown that we can filter based on a timeline. What things are late, what things are due tomorrow, in the future, what things don't have a date assigned yet. And then we can also filter based on other parameters like the priority or a label that's been assigned. So lots of great things that you can filter on. And I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to filter to see just the things that have to do with community sponsors. I'm going to click outside of this area and notice this is the only task that has that label assigned to it. To clear filter, we can go back to filter. We can select clear in the upper right corner, and that brings everything back into view. We'll go ahead and set our group back to bucket as well. All right, now let's move on over to the right side. We're viewing this in the board view, but if you're someone that likes lists or you have a lot of tasks and it's just easier to view them that way, go ahead and select lists. You still have a lot of the same information available. It's going to be in a tabular format. where we have titles at the top and then a listing of each item. So we can still see the name of the task, if there's an attachment, if there's a checklist, who it's assigned to, the priority, the due date, and what bucket it belongs to. If we go over to charts, this is a great way for you to be able to report on things or see things in a more visual way. We're visualizing those buckets and those tasks. You'll notice over here to the left, we have the status, which things have not been started, what's in progress, what's late, what's been completed. We also have a chart that shows us how many tasks are in each bucket. We'll just scroll up a little bit here so that you can see. We just have one in each bucket. And then over to the right, you still have a way that you can view the various tasks. Right now we're viewing them based on buckets, but we can still apply the way that we want to group things here in this chart view, and we can still apply filters to this chart as well. Okay, let's move on over to schedule. Schedule is a calendar view, and the default view for this is in a month format. If you have a lot of tasks, there might be a lot of things that are overlapping or that cannot be displayed, like it's showing me one more here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this to the week view. And then I'm going to use my arrows up here next to the week that's displayed to just go week by week and take a look at the tasks that are coming up. We can see on the 6th, we have send schedule to sponsors. And if we go out to the next week, there's the confirm expo booth assignments. And once again, you can group based on different parameters, and you can filter on different parameters and also expand to see the different groupings here. Right now, we're viewing these by buckets. Once you're done, we'll go ahead and select the double-headed arrow to collapse this tab, and that brings the teams back into view. And that's how you can manage and report on tasks. There's nothing worse than forgetting about actionable work from a recent chat or conversation. I want to show you a new feature that lets you turn a private chat or a channel conversation into a trackable task. We're going to start here in this private chat. You're going to want to hover over the message, and then from that pop-up toolbar, select the ellipses. That's the More Options menu. From this menu, we'll go to More Actions at the bottom, and then from the pop-out menu, we'll select Create Task. It's going to create this in the default task list. You'll notice over here in Creating that it says Tasks. If you've created other named lists within the To-Do app, you can select this field and then choose it from the list. So let's go ahead and select Rim Block. Now over to the right, we'll go ahead and select a priority. The default is medium, but you can also choose to make this important. We'll leave it set to medium for now. You can also give it a due date, not required, but I always encourage you to have a due date. You can change it in the future if you need to. So let's go ahead and select this field, and from the mini calendar, we'll go ahead and select a due date. Now notice in the notes field that there's some pre-populated information. This gives you context about where this task came from. What chat or what channel conversation is it about? And that includes who was part of this chat conversation, the date and time that it happened, and then the message itself. And as well, it has a link here to take you directly back to that conversation. You can add more details as needed to this notes area. All right, let's go ahead and select Add Task. And now that task has been added to the list that was selected. You can do the same thing for a channel conversation. Let's go out to Teams, and we're going to go to this catering channel within the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference team. And over here to the right, let's locate the conversation that we would like to turn into a task. When you hover over that threaded conversation, from that pop-up toolbar, we'll select the ellipses. That takes us to the More Options menu. And we're going to follow the same steps as we did before. We're going to go to More Actions and select Create Task. Just as we had before, you'll notice in the Create In field, it's assigning it to the default task list, where once again, you can choose a different list if you'd like to add it to that list, and then proceed on to choosing the priority, the due date, and adding any other details needed. And then once done, you'll select Add Task. For now though, let's go ahead and X out of this. So we're going to close it without saving it. We'll select the X in the upper right corner. These tasks that you've created, you of course can manage or view by going to the To-Do app that's part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. But I'd like to show you a shortcut, something that will allow you to have a space here within Microsoft Teams to manage all of those tasks in one area. For this, we're going to go over to the rail on the left and select the 3 ellipses. That takes us to the More Added Apps area. And we're going to find the Tasks by Planner and To Do. If you don't see it listed here, you can type it in the Find an App area here at the top. All right, I'm going to go ahead and select it. And now you'll notice that that app is showing over here on the rail. Before I show you how to work with this app, if you want this app to be available in the future, you'll want to pin it to the rail. Right-click over it and then select Pin. Okay, now where it's taking us to is the My Tasks area here at the top. You'll notice that if we go to Tasks, that's the default task listing. It's going to show you all of the tasks that are part of this list. If we wanted to see something that we've recently added, like what we just created in the room block, if we go to that list, then here's the task that we just created. And from here, you can view and manage the tasks. Now, hopefully, all of your tasks will be remembered and completed on time. You may need to track project-related items in a list, such as issues, work progress, events, and even vendors. You can add a list to a channel to make it easier for everybody to access the information. Here's how. We're going to start here within the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference team. This is the original conference, and the vendor list that we need happens to be here within the vendors channel. You'll notice in the vendors channel that there's a tab up here that says vendors. Let's go ahead and select that. And that takes us to the list. This is a list that resides on the associated site. That's the SharePoint site or team site as it's referred to. We'd like to repurpose this list and use it in the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2 team. And for that, we can go out to the SharePoint site where this list is by selecting the 3 ellipses and then selecting Open in SharePoint. I happen to already have this open in SharePoint, so I'm going to minimize the Teams app, and this is where it would take you. So this is the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference site, and this is really where the list lives. Now, if I want to repurpose this list, I can copy the URL here from the top. So let's go ahead and select that, then right-click and select Copy. Now, let's go back to the Teams app, and we're going to scroll up to the top of the Teams list and locate that other team that we want to add this list to. So here's the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2 team. We'd like to add this vendors list to the catering channel. Within the catering channel, we're going to go ahead and select Add a Tab. From the Add a Tab menu, let's select Lists. Now you do have to set this app up within the channel, so we'll select Save to finish adding that. And now we can either create a new list or we can add an existing list. And that's what we want to do because we copied that URL. Let's go ahead and select Add an Existing List. And in the Enter a Link field, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control-V to paste that in, and we'll select the arrow to finish setting it up. And here it is. Now, the account that I'm logged in with had proper permissions to this list, and that's why I was able to set that up here within this channel. And now everyone that's working in this catering channel will have access to this list as well. Now let's set up a new list. For this one, we're going to switch over to the Schedule channel. We're going to go back up to the top and select Add a Tab. We'll select Lists once more. We do need to set this up for this channel as well, so we'll select Save to add it. And now we're going to select Create a List. Now we can build a list from scratch. That would be a blank list. We could also create a list from some information that already exists within an Excel workbook, or just as we did before, we can create a list from an existing list. So this is just another way to go about doing that. You can also create a list from templates, and let's scroll down a little bit here. Notice that there are several templates here to work with. We'll use this other scroll bar to continue on. Quite a few that you can pick from. And the one that we're going to set up happens to be Event Itinerary. We'll go ahead and select it. It's going to show us a preview of what this event itinerary will look like. Again, we can use the scroll bars. I'll use this other scroll bar to take us down a bit more so that we can scroll to the right and you get an idea of what this is going to look like. We'll go ahead and select Use Template. Next, we'll update the name. It does say event itinerary. I'm just going to call it event schedule. We can give it a description. We can choose a color. I'm going to go with the default, which is teal, and we can choose an icon. This is kind of like we're setting up a theme for it, and then we'll select create. And here is our event schedule. There's nothing in it yet, but you'll notice that we do have headings here at the top where the information will display. You can add items and you can edit this in a grid view. And that's how you can add an existing list or create a new list within a channel. Once you have a list set up within a channel, you can manage that list. There's a couple ways you can go about doing that. If you don't have any items yet listed in the list, you can select new item and fill out all of the fields needed and save it. You'll notice for this, the only thing that's required would be a title, and then we could save it and come back and fill in the rest of the information later. For now though, I'm going to select cancel because I would like to show you another way that you can edit this list. But before we do edit it, I'd like to point out in the upper right corner that we have a way to change the way that we're viewing this list. So if we select all items, we can change this to compact list. This is useful if you have a lot of items in the list and you want to view more of them on a smaller screen or whatever area you have available. Other choices are to view this as a gallery. It looks more like contact cards now instead of a list. All right, over to the right, we have the option to filter. This opens the filters pane where we can choose to view just certain items like pixel photography and maybe topsy-turvy cake design. We can also choose to, and I'm going to uncheck these, only work with the list items that have been approved. So I'll select yes. And we're now viewing, if I close the filters, just the two things that have been approved. We can go back to filter and we can clear the filter by selecting clear filters in the upper right corner. Let's go ahead and close that filter pane one more time. Let's change our list view back to the default, which is list. And now let's edit this list. I'm going to select edit in grid view. This gives you the capability to move around from cell to cell and make any updates that are necessary. For this example, I'm going to approve pixel photography. So I'll select the cell that says no, check the box to indicate that yes, they have been approved. And then I'm going to move on over here to notes. And I'm going to get rid of this note that says waiting on paperwork because we've received the paperwork. And now that I'm done making the changes, I'm going to exit the grid view. I'll select exit grid view and notice that it is now marked as yes approved and there's no note over here to the right. And that's how you can manage a channel list. A SharePoint site can contain pages and news articles that might be relevant to everyone working on a project. And instead of them having to switch to the SharePoint site to get the latest news or to read those pages, you can bring those directly into the team channel that they're working in. Say, for instance, we want to bring in this news article about buttercream or fondant. Well, let's go ahead and minimize the SharePoint site. We'll go out here to the team channel. It happens to be this catering channel where we would like to bring this page into. We're going to select the plus sign. That takes us to the Add a Tab menu. And then we're going to select SharePoint Pages. It's displaying pages from the Red 30 TechMakers Conference 2 site. And the one that we want happens to be the one right here at the top. If what you want to bring in is not a page or news from the connected SharePoint site, but rather another SharePoint site, you can select Add a Page from any SharePoint site. You can go get the URL for that page and paste it into this URL field. What we want, though, happens to be part of this site, so we'll select Back to Browse. We'll select the page, and then we'll select Save. And here is the page. You'll notice at the top that it says Buttercream or Fondant as the title. If we need to manage that title, we can select the down arrow and we can rename it. I'm going to take that out and just call it Topsy-Turvy Cake Design and then save it. And here's the news link details. You can edit this news article by selecting the pencil and then make any changes that you want within these fields. Once you're done, you'll save the draft. And that's how you can connect a SharePoint page to a team channel. Adding a OneNote notebook to a team provides an integrated note-taking workflow for taking meeting notes, brainstorming ideas, and documenting decisions. Each team comes with a pre-built notebook that can be connected to the various team channels. I'd like to show you how to connect a notebook to this catering channel. We're going to start by selecting the plus sign. That's the Add a Tab command. From the menu, we'll select OneNote. Now, all of these notebooks that you see listed here are the notebooks that the account I'm logged in with either has access to, or they might be personal notebooks. Notice the one at the very top says Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2 notebook. This is the default team notebook. This is the notebook that when the team was created, this notebook was created and connected to it. Now, the other notebook that you see listed here, well, this is the notebook that was connected to the team that was used for the previous conference. So the notebook that we're going to connect to happens to be this one. If the notebook that you want to use is not listed here, then you can select Paste a OneNote link, go and get a link for that notebook and paste it in, or you can create a new notebook. But we're going to use the one that's already here. I'm going to select it because notice there's an arrow over here to the left, and when I select this, it's going to expand for us to see the sections that may have already been set up within this notebook. There aren't any, so we're going to go ahead and select Create New Section to set that up. The reason that we're doing this is I really think that it's important for a project or for anything else that you might be working on in a team to have some structure with your notebook. And one of the ways you can do that is to create a section that matches the name of the channel. So then each section in the notebook corresponds with that channel. And we can set the section for that channel to be the default section that it goes to when they go to that notebook tab. So we're going to call this Catering Notes. I could just simply call it Catering as well if I want. Press Enter to save the name of that section. And now we're going to select that section. Now down at the bottom, you'll notice that it's going to post about this channel being set up. It's going to post that as a new conversation in the Post tab area. All right, the reason that I have this section selected is I want that to be the default location that it's going to go to. That's what the tab is going to be set up to do. So let's select Save. We have a notification that it's setting up the new tab. Here at the top, you'll notice that the name of the tab is Catering Notes. We have one empty page to get us started with our note taking. And if I select the books on the shelf over here, this is to show the navigation of the notebook. You'll notice the name of the notebook, the name of the section that we're in called Catering Notes, and that untitled page that is in view over here to the right. And that's how you can add a OneNote notebook to a team channel. I love taking notes with OneNote, and if you are a fan of OneNote, I think you're going to like what you're able to do right here within Microsoft Teams. And if you're new to OneNote, hopefully you'll pick up a few new note-taking workflows to help you. So here we are in the catering channel, and we are working within the catering notes section of this notebook. The first thing that I want to point out is that you'll probably want more space for taking those notes or more space for viewing those notes. The great thing about OneNote is the page expands as you are adding those note containers, so you can kind of shape it to whatever size you want it to be. So let's go ahead and select the double-headed arrow up here. That's Expand tab. That hides the team's listing on the left side. Okay, the next thing is we're preparing to go into a meeting, and you probably jot down certain things that exist in the Outlook meeting. Well, Outlook connects to OneNote. Why redo all of that note-taking for things that you can have pulled in automatically? So we're going to go to the Insert ribbon, and all the way over here on the right side of the ribbon, yours might be listed on the ribbon. I have to go into this More Options menu. You're looking for Meeting Details. So we'll select Meeting Details, and a pane displays on the right. If it's the first time that you're accessing this, it will require that you log in with your Microsoft credentials. So that could be your work account, your school account, or your personal account. I've already logged into it, and this is what it's going to look like once you do. It's showing the meetings that are coming up today, and there's also a calendar you can access if you're preparing for a meeting tomorrow or later in the week by selecting this arrow. and then selecting a day. I'm going to leave it set to the 19th though, because we are going to add notes for this conference call with Phyllis. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and notice what happened over here with the page. The title of this page was empty. There was not any containers of information on the page. So it pulled in the subject of that meeting and made that the title of this page. And this container, this is all of the details that it was able to capture from the meeting details. So who was invited, any notes or any instructions that have been included with that meeting, the date and the time and the location where that meeting is taking place. Okay, let's go ahead and close this Add Meeting Details pane. And now this notes section at the bottom, this is a great place for you to start capturing decisions, ideas, other information that's shared in the meeting, action items that come from that meeting, whether you're responsible for them or others that are working on this project are responsible for those. So let's go back over here to the home ribbon. And you'll notice over here on the home ribbon, you have a way that you can start tagging things that you're typing in. And one of the tags that I like to use in this notes section is the to-do tag. So we'll select that. You'll notice we have our first to-do tag, and maybe we can say something like approved budget, follow up on social posts. There you go. We've got 2 items in here. And as these things are completed, these tags you can select to check and mark them as complete. All right, we're going to move on over to another page, and I'd like to show you how you can pull in documents, files that you have that you may want to take notes on or have notes around that document. So for this example, let's go ahead and select the Show Navigation. It's what looks like books on a bookshelf. And we'll go ahead and add a new page for now. And on this untitled page, we'll go ahead and just select in the page area where we would type in containers. We'll go over here to the Insert ribbon. We're going to be pulling in a file, so we're going to go to the File command. We have a choice of attaching it as an attachment. It'll just look like the associated application icon. Like if this is a Word document, it would have that blue W icon, and it would have the name of the file. And you would be able to double click on that file to open it in the associated application. Or we can insert it as a file printout, and it's going to look on this digital piece of paper like it would if it were printed on a piece of paper from a printer. We're going to go with the file printout. We'll select Choose File. We'll navigate to where the file happens to be saved. In this case, it's the desktop. Go ahead and select that file, and then select Open. We'll go ahead and select Insert. The file is being inserted, and here it is. We're at the bottom of the file, so let's go ahead and scroll to the top. Notice that we have the PDF attachment, and we have the printout here that we can take notes on with digital ink, type note containers around that, anything else that we need to add. Okay, one more thing that we're going to do here. We're going to go back over here to our navigation. We're going to switch to our schedule notes. And in this untitled page, we're going to simply label this Ideas, and we're going to start a table for capturing some ideas. Now, we can insert a table from the Insert ribbon by selecting Table, but I'd like to show you a shortcut. So let's start typing the headings for the information that we're going to capture within this table. So we're going to type the first heading. So I'll type Idea, and then I'm going to press the Tab key. This is the keyboard shortcut to start building a table. And you'll notice that now we have our first cell in one row, and we're working on the next cell. I'll type Description, and I'll type Name. I'll press Enter, and we're on to row 2, where we can start entering the information within this table. And that's how you can start taking project notes with OneNote. Sometimes a question needs an answer right away, and the back and forth emails or channel conversations may not get the job done. An impromptu Teams meeting known as Meet Now may be able to assist in offering ways to share apps, use a whiteboard to annotate, take notes in a OneNote notebook, or maybe just use the audio and video to see and hear everyone in the meeting to make those quick decisions. We're going to start a Meet Now meeting, and we're going to do that here in the schedule channel. So the first thing is you'll want to be in the channel where you want this to take place if you want it to connect everything you're doing in that meeting to post the conversation, the chat conversation here within the posts area, as well as just kind of tracking when the meeting started and ending, maybe any meeting notes you're taking, all of those elements that go along with the meeting. Okay, so here we are in the schedule channel, and in the upper right corner, we're going to select Meet Now. From the drop-down menu that appears, we'll select Meet Now. This brings us to the area where we set up the meeting before we start it. So notice at the top that it says Meeting in Schedule. This is a place for you to update that to a specific topic, if you will. I'm going to leave it with the default for now. And then you're also able to customize the audio and video settings before you join the meeting. So over here on the left is where you can enable your camera and you can choose a background filter. And over on the right is where you can configure your audio. The default is to use computer audio, and you can, of course, mute or unmute before you join, change the level of volume, if you will, or change to a different audio source, such as phone audio or room audio. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just mute as I'm joining this, and then select Join Now. So here we are in the meeting. And this is a separate window from the Teams app. You'll notice that we're prompted to invite people to join, so you can copy the meeting link to your clipboard, and then you could go paste that in a chat or paste that in an email or somewhere else that everyone else can grab that link and join into this meeting. All right, let's go ahead and close this notification. We also have a prompt that the microphone is muted. Your toolbar here at the top is where you can unmute and mute. You can turn your camera on and off, and you can also see who's joining the meeting. So this Show Participants pane is over here on the right. And this is a great place for you to monitor who is joining your meeting, especially if you need to allow them into the meeting from the lobby. You can also switch to chat. This is something else that I encourage you to use to welcome everyone into the meeting and also just to monitor any questions or issues that might be coming up throughout the meeting. Now, before we leave this meeting, I'm going to go ahead and minimize the meeting window. That takes us back here to the Teams app. And you'll notice in the lower right corner, this is the meeting that's in progress. So we have not left the meeting. We can still hear and see everything that's being shared in that meeting. But the reason that I'm having you go take a look here is you'll notice in the schedule channel where this meeting is taking place, in the Posts tab, here's the meeting that is in progress. Because this meeting was connected to this channel, anyone that is reading the conversations here can quickly join this meeting. Any chats that happen and other content that is shared in this meeting will also be connected to this conversation as a reply within this threaded conversation. Now, if we want to go back to the meeting and make it full screen, we can double click. That brings us back to full screen, and we'll go ahead and select Leave to leave the meeting. Now, by me leaving the meeting, I have closed the meeting for everyone that was there. And that is how you can start an impromptu team channel meeting. You can run effective project meetings with Microsoft Teams. It starts with scheduling the meeting. You can schedule a meeting directly from the Teams app, or if you have the Outlook Teams add-in, you can schedule it from your Outlook calendar. Let's schedule a meeting right here from the Teams app. We're going to start by selecting the calendar from the rail. This is everything that is on your calendar. So the account that I'm logged in with, all of the appointments and meetings that are listed here are what are also showing in my Outlook calendar. Another great integration with Microsoft Teams that you don't have to leave Teams to get to those meetings or to see what you have coming up for the rest of your day or your week. In the upper right corner is where we can schedule a new meeting. But before we do, I'd like to point out that you have Meet Now here also. By selecting Meet Now, this is a personal impromptu meeting that you can start, and then you can invite individuals to that meeting. So there's Meet Now that's connected to a channel, and there's the private Meet Now here as well. Now over to the right, where it says New Meeting, notice there's a drop-down arrow. This gives you the choice of scheduling a meeting, scheduling a webinar, or scheduling a live event. We want to schedule a meeting, so we're going to select this one from the top of the list. Your other choice would be to just select New Meeting, and it's going to do the same thing. So let's do that. That takes us to this new meeting, where we're going to enter all the information we need to set this meeting up. The first thing is we need to give the meeting a title. So let's call this our monthly budget review. We'll go down to the next field. Required attendees, you'll notice that this does say optional. Now, we're going to set this up to be a channel meeting where everyone that is a part of the team that is working in that channel can attend the meeting. If we needed to invite someone, let's say a stakeholder or someone external like a consultant or a vendor, you can also invite them with their email addresses to this meeting. Of course, your organization, it's going to depend on if they allow external people to attend those meetings. All right, we're going to skip that add required attendees for now, and we're going to come down here to where it says add channel. By selecting add channel, it's going to show a listing of all the teams that you are an owner or a member of. And the team that we would like this meeting to take place in is this Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2. Notice the arrow next to it. By selecting this, it's going to expand to show us the channels. We need to specify which channel we want this to take place in. For now, I'm going to select General. And the location that we can add is a physical location. You might have some folks that are attending from a specific conference room. You could include something like that in the location field. All right, let's go ahead and specify when this meeting is going to take place. So you'll notice that we have a date and a time for the start time and a date and a time for the end time. We can turn this into an all-day meeting, and we can give this a recurring pattern. We're going to select the does not repeat and choose that this is going to take place monthly. And then we're going to specify, and you'll notice that it says starting on the third Friday because it's looking at the date that's currently in here. Now I'm going to update that date. We're going to update it to the 29th. And now you'll notice that that date has updated here as well. Okay, let's scroll down a bit and add some details. As you're typing your details in here, notice that you have a formatting toolbar to be able to apply formatting to the text, to the paragraphs of text, including if you want to have a bulleted list, a numbered list, and then there's more things here like a quote, a link, maybe even creating a table. So let's go ahead and enter just a little bit of information. And now we're going to scroll back to the top. We've got everything in here that we need. And you'll notice at the top we can change the time zone if needed. We can also specify the response options. This is something newer within a Teams meeting. Do I want request responses, and do I want to allow forwarding of this meeting? I don't want to allow forwarding, so I'm going to go ahead and select that to turn it off. Now you notice when I go back into that menu, only request responses is checked. All right, let's click outside of there. Require registration. This is something that's also newer to Teams meetings. You'll notice the default setting is none. But if you wanted to require registration for this and track who's registered, you can do that within your organization or for everyone that has been invited to the meeting. We'll leave that set to none for now, so we'll click outside of that menu. We'll go ahead and send this. And now if we take a look on the calendar, we'll use the arrow to go out to that week where we have it scheduled. And here is the monthly budget review that is being set up. And it's going to be on a recurring basis, happening once a month on a Monday. All right, now let's go take a look at the channel where this is set up to take place. We're going to go to Teams. We're going to go to the Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2 team. We set this meeting up to take place in general, not in budget. So we're going to switch over here to general. And here's the notification that has been auto-posted about this meeting. And everyone will be able to click on this when the meeting is getting ready to start and join that meeting. And that's how you can schedule a Teams meeting to take place within a channel. If you're new to joining Microsoft Teams meetings, or you're going to be facilitating a meeting, there's a few things that might be helpful to you. When you join a meeting, you might see a prompt as you're speaking that you're muted, just like you're seeing on my screen right now. This is just showing you there's a keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-M, or from the toolbar here, you can unmute yourself. I'm going to leave myself muted just for demonstration purposes in this video to make sure we don't have any audio issues. Okay, also on the toolbar, you might want to go ahead and show participants. This is a great way for you to keep track of who is joining the meeting if you're greeting them and giving them instructions on what they need to do to set up for this meeting. It's also a great place for you to be able to accept everyone into the meeting if they are waiting in a lobby instead of having to accept them one by one. You'll see a button towards the top here to accept them. As you're monitoring this participants list, it also is a helpful way for you to know who is speaking, and if you need to guide someone, give some assistance on helping them to unmute or mute. You can work with these 3 little dots here. That's the more options to manage a lot of those things. Okay, we're going to switch over here to chat. This is the meeting chat. This is the conversation pane. This is where we'll be able to chat back and forth. A great place for you just to welcome everyone, let them know when you'll be starting, if there's anything else that you want to inform them about, or encourage them to interact and ask questions in this area as well. Now, once you're ready to record the meeting, we're going to go up here to the toolbar to the More Actions menu. And in here, you'll notice towards the bottom of the menu, I'm just going to scroll down. We can start recording. Once recording has started, we will get a banner notification here that is going to show for everyone, letting them know that we are being recorded. We'll go ahead and dismiss that. And the dot that was more of a grayish color is now red with a white line around it, indicating that we are recording. And anyone that hovers over that will be able to see who has started the recording. Now, at any time during the meeting, you can go back to this More Actions menu and you can stop the recording. But I'm going to scroll down a bit here. There you go. We'll stop the recording. Again, we'll stop the recording. There we go. It's also letting everyone know that the recording is being saved. And we'll have a link for this and we'll take a look at that once we end this meeting. So let's dismiss that notification. Okay. Throughout the meeting, you might also want to encourage everyone to share their reactions. Are they excited about what you're discussing? Are they applauding something? Do they love something? And reactions is a great way to do that. By using these reactions, everyone else can see them in the meeting. So there you'll be able to see as well who shared the reaction. So a great way for you to know who likes something. And again, if you're not seeing each of those squares down here, if it's not easy for you to monitor that, that's when this participant panel can be helpful as well. Especially if someone is raising their hand, you'll have a great indicator of who is raising their hand. It will show up here and it will show up next to their name here in the participants list as well. Okay, well, let's say that we're ready to start sharing a screen or sharing a presentation. If we go over here and select Share Content, we have different modes that we can present this in. So if you only want them seeing the content, if you want them to see you and the content, so use your camera, or more of a side-by-side, right? The content and you. So you've got some different modes that you can choose, and you can add a background to that. We're going to leave it with just the content for now. You also can share a specific screen. So if you have more than one screen, this is a great way for you to be able to select that, or a window. And if we scroll on down, you can collaborate with a whiteboard, so you can have other participants in the meeting working in this whiteboard using digital ink and sticky notes and such to be able to work together in that. You can also share content from a camera, but what we're going to share is a presentation. So you'll notice there's a few presentations that I've been working with recently. This is the one that we're going to share, but if the presentation I want to share is not listed there, then I can browse OneDrive and access it from the OneDrive document library, or I can even browse my computer and upload it from there. Let's go ahead and launch this London Hotel PowerPoint. Notice we have a notification over here for PowerPoint Live. And I'm going to minimize my participants list for now. There we go. That'll make this a little bit bigger to see. And this is the view that I'm going to have as the presenter. Now, the audience will see just this slide in full screen. And by default, they will be able to move through each of these slides. So if you're using this for training purposes, or you want to give them the flexibility of reading through this at their own pace, this is great if you're using breakout rooms as well, to have them look through this, then go have a discussion, come back, share their ideas. Now, if I don't want them to move through this, I can turn that off, prevent them from moving forward. And now they won't be able to kind of steal the thunder of what I want to wow them with next. And you've got different ways that you can view this. So I can view these slides in a grid view if I need to go directly over to this slide, and even mark things up, if you will. And then once I'm done, I can stop presenting by selecting Stop Presenting here at the top. We'll go ahead and stop presenting. Now, when you're done with the meeting, we'll go ahead and leave it, but I do want to call one thing to your attention. There is a drop-down arrow here. So if I end the meeting, I am ending the meeting for everyone. If I just need to leave and I want them to continue on without me, then I would select Leave. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. I'm going to select End. That ends the meeting. I'm going to close out of these meeting details where I joined the meeting from. That takes me back out to the channel where this meeting was taking place. That's the feedback channel. This is the meeting that we were just attending. And if you notice, there's 4 replies here. Let's go ahead and expand that. We can see that the recording has started, the recording has stopped, and let me scroll down a little more. And this is where everyone can access that meeting recording. So right from where all the work is taking place and where they know these meetings are taking place, this is where they can find that meeting recording as soon as it is done uploading here. As well, if you're the project manager or someone who needs to track attendance, this is where you can download the attendance report. And that is a CSV file that you can open in Excel. And that is how you can facilitate a meeting with your fellow team members. During a Microsoft Teams meeting, you may need to create spaces for separate smaller group discussions, such as idea gathering and problem solving. Breakout rooms can be set up ahead of a Microsoft Teams meeting or even during a Microsoft Teams meeting. Let's check it out. Here's a meeting that I have already set up and I've invited people to. Let's go ahead and select it and then select Edit. Now, once you have sent a meeting invitation out that is a Microsoft Teams meeting, you will see additional elements that you can customize or configure for that meeting. These things are found at the top. You'll notice right now that we're in the details section. That's the default place that this takes you to. But over here to the right is a way to set up meeting notes, and where it says 3 more, we have additional things like setting up a whiteboard or viewing the attendance for the meeting once it takes place. Here's where we'll find breakout rooms. Let's go ahead and select that to start setting it up. Next, let's select Create Rooms. Let's choose how many rooms are needed. You'll notice the default setting is 2. And if you scroll down, we can see how many other rooms we can create, up to 10. We'll go ahead and leave it set to 2 for now, and then select Add Rooms. Once you've added breakout rooms to your meeting, it's worth noting that the meeting will now be limited to 300 participants. Now, the ellipses that you see in the upper right corner of each of these meeting tiles is your room settings. Let's go to that menu. This is where you can edit the name of the room if you want to give it something a little more meaningful about what's happening in that room. It's also where you can go to the meeting settings to configure things like who is going to be a meeting manager. Now, you can assign meeting managers, that's breakout meeting managers, based upon who you have assigned to be presenters for the main meeting that we have here. And that's something that you would go to the meeting options link for in that detail section to set up. Now, these presenters need to be people that work within your organization in order for you to be able to assign them as breakout room meeting managers. If you're going to have a really large group, you may want to have those managers to manage the separate rooms that you have. This is a smaller meeting, so it's not something that we're going to configure at the moment. You can also choose to delete the room if maybe you've decided you don't need it, and then add additional rooms later. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this ellipses to close that menu, and we'll assign participants. We'll select Assign Participants, and we have 2 choices. We can have teams automatically assign each person that has been invited to this meeting to those 2 breakout rooms. If we had 10 people, it would assign 5 to one room and 5 to another. We only have invited 2 people to this meeting. We are going to leave it set to automatically. But if you have specific groups that you'd like to create, you can manually assign the people to each of the rooms. We'll leave it set to automatically and then select Next. Now you'll notice we have one participant in room 1 and the other participant in room 2. Now let's go ahead and close this meeting. And we have saved the changes for the breakout rooms that we just set up for this meeting. And now let's go into the meeting while it's in progress to work with these breakout rooms.
For many years, Microsoft Teams has offered 2 types of meetings: scheduled meetings and impromptu meetings. While for both, most of the options are the same, with some slight little differences. Now, there are also meeting templates to help you customize the meeting experience based on a specific scenario or need. To get to these templates within the calendar area of Microsoft Teams, let's go over here to the upper right corner, and instead of selecting New Meeting, we're going to go over here and select the downward facing arrow. Notice there's an area here called templates, and there are 2 templates currently available, webinar and virtual appointment. Webinar is great for providing a registration process and facilitating a meeting for a large audience within your company or to the public. Since this course is more focused around project management, let's focus on the other template type, which is a virtual appointment. A virtual appointment is great for meeting with external guests such as clients, project members, or stakeholders, along with including internal project members. It's lightweight in that it provides external guests with a browser-based meeting experience. They don't need to have the Teams application. Let's go ahead and set up a virtual appointment. We'll go ahead and select it from here. And here's the new virtual appointment. We, of course, need to give this a title. Let's go ahead and do it. And we'll need to add the external guest information. Let's go ahead and invite Philip. Let's enter his email address as well. If you need to add additional guests, you can go ahead and select this plus sign to do so. Let's go ahead and schedule the start and end dates and times. And as we move on down, you'll notice that we can also include internal attendees. So if I want to include my colleague Phyllis, I'll start typing her name, select it from the list, and I could add additional colleagues if I want to as well. You can also include a location, or if there's any additional details, you can add that here just as you would in a regular meeting. Now, where it gets a little different is the options for this meeting. So if we look over here on the right side, we're rather limited. We're more limited with this than we are for a traditional or a standard type of a meeting. We can still choose who is going to present, just you and the co-organizers, or we can change that to one of these other settings like everyone or people in my org and guests or specific people. We can also choose to record this automatically. Let's go ahead and turn that on. And then for the meeting chat, do we want the meeting chat to only be enabled during the meeting? That's the in meeting only. Do we want it to be on all the time outside of the meeting as well, or turn it completely off? We'll leave it set to in meeting only. If you want more options, you can either select options here at the top, or you can select more options here. That's going to bring you to this pop-out menu where you'll see that there's a little bit more information, some other things that we can set, such as if we want to allow the mics for attendees and allow cameras for attendees. We're going to go ahead and leave all of these settings set the way they are and select Save and close out of this pop-up. Now we're ready to send this. Let's go ahead and do it. Our meeting has been scheduled. It's worth noting that the invitee, the external guest that you've invited to this meeting, will get a link in an email. They're able to select that link and they're able to join the meeting through their browser from either their computer or a mobile device. When they join, they will be joining as an anonymous user. Now you're ready to set up a webinar in Microsoft Teams. While in a Microsoft Teams meeting like this one, you can use built-in closed captioning. It's called Live Captions. It translates spoken words into typed text within an area of the meeting space, also known as the meeting stage. This tool helps to be inclusive of all project members attending meetings. It supports those with hearing impairments and those that speak a different language than the speaker in the meeting. Right now, we're viewing a meeting from the Microsoft Teams desktop application. To enable live captions, let's go to the meeting toolbar and select More. Then we'll select Language and Speech. From the pop-out, we'll select Turn on Live Captions. Notice the area at the bottom of this meeting that is displaying everything that I am saying. It's translating that into typed text. Now, if this is the first time that you are enabling live captions, you'll have a pop-up message that appears asking you to set the language. And it's also letting you know that when you set that language for live captions, you're setting it for everyone in the meeting. There's also a checkbox there that you can save those settings for future meetings, but I'm going to show you where you can find that as well once you're working with live captions. So if we need to configure the spoken language or the language that is displaying in live captions, when we have this enabled, we'll go over here to Settings and select Settings If we need to change the spoken language, we can do that from here. Here's all of the supported languages. Remember, if you make a change to this, though, you're changing it for everyone in the meeting. We're going to leave it set to English for now, so we'll click back here. But maybe we have project members that speak German, and we need to change that caption language to German. So let's go here to the caption language and change that from English to German. Now, as I'm speaking, notice that it is translating my words to German typed text. If you have participants in the meeting that are not seeing this live caption area, direct them to go to the More menu, to Language and Speech, and to turn on live captions. You'll notice since it's turned on already, it also gives us the capability to turn it off from here. But we're not ready to do that yet, so let's click outside here, and we're going to go back to settings once more. We can also configure the display and the size of things within the caption area by going to Caption Settings. Here under Styles, it displays how the text currently looks. And if we modify the color, we're getting a live preview of it here, and we're also seeing it in real time here. We can also change the height of this area. Let's change that to large. We can change the position from being at the bottom to being at the top of the meeting stage. And we can change the font size. Let's make that a little bit bigger by setting it to large. All right, great. Now I'm going to change this back to white text. So we have that white text on a black background. I'm going to scroll back up a bit. And here is where I would mention to you that you can save all of these settings for your future meetings. So if this is not checked and you like the settings that you've set up, go ahead and check that so that when you turn on live captions in your future meetings, it's already pre-configured based on the preferences you have set here. Let's go ahead and close caption settings. And we're ready to turn this off, so we'll go back to More, Language and Speech, and turn off live captions. Now you know how to make your project meetings inclusive for all project participants. Before we get into how to generate meeting tasks automatically, we should cover some changes with Teams meetings. If you facilitated or attended a Teams meeting during the first 6 years of its existence and needed to review content after, you likely went to different places to review the files that were shared, to access notes that were taken, or to watch the meeting recording. This content will now be found within the Recap tab of the meeting that you access from the Teams calendar. We'll check the Recap tab out later in this video. All Teams users will have the Recap tab to access meeting content. To view the recap for a meeting, we need to go back to the calendar and open the meeting. So let's open this meeting. Now here at the top, you'll see that there are different tabs to go to the chat for this meeting, the files that were shared in this meeting, the details, and on over here, here's recap. Let's go ahead and select it. The very first thing that's included at the top of the recap is a way for you to play the recap. So we could play the video right from here. We could also open this in Microsoft Stream as well. If we scroll on down, there's a speakers area. So based on the recording, it is able to track where a person was speaking. And if you make a selection, if I select Phyllis here, and if I go back up here now to the video, notice that it is right at that point in the video where Phyllis is speaking. And if I start playing it from here, it's playing at that timeline point in the video. Let's move on down a bit more. Next, we have the content. So any content that is shared in this meeting. In this case, it's a PowerPoint presentation, but it could be a Word document, an Excel workbook, or other types of files. This gives you a great way to go back and reference those files after the meeting is done. Now, I mentioned that there are two types of recap content. The content that is available to all Teams users and the content that is available to those that have a Teams premium license. And the big distinguisher in that is the AI-generated content, the AI insights, if you will, from that meeting. And down here, you'll notice there's a section called AI Notes, and that should indicate to you that this is premium. So if you're not seeing this, it's likely you do not have a premium license. What's great about this is based on the conversations happening in the meeting, it is suggesting that these may be some notes that are relevant to you, and that you can copy these to the clipboard of your computer and then go paste them somewhere else. Maybe you want to paste those into a OneNote notebook. You want to paste those into a Teams chat just to send that section of notes maybe to someone that missed the meeting, or even into an email, wherever you want to paste it to, right? And you'll also notice that we have suggested tasks. And this is based on the conversations happening in the meeting. AI was picking up on what are some things that sound like actionable items, things that need to be completed from the discussions in this meeting. And it found a couple of those, that we need to look for some new event space information, and that we need to meet tomorrow and finalize the ideas to get a particular slide updated. Again, we can copy the contents from here and go paste this into whatever we like to use to manage our tasks, such as Microsoft Planner or Microsoft To Do. All right, let's scroll on back up a little bit here. We also have a section here labeled at mentions. And while I don't have any at mentions in here, no one mentioned me in this particular meeting, there were some at mentions happening in the chat. And that person that was at mentioned, it would show up here for them. So this is a collection of maybe the things that they could go back and check and see, did I respond to that at mention? Is there something that I need to follow up on with someone in the future? And then you have the full transcript of this meeting. So because this meeting was being recorded, it is also creating a transcript. It's transcribing all of those spoken words and transcribing them into typed text. And here it is. It gives you the capability to download this in either a Word document file or in a transcription type of a file. That's a VTT type of a file. Okay, let's move on up just a bit here and point out one last thing. If you are a fan of popping out different things within Microsoft Teams and having those different windows lined up on a monitor or several monitors, you can also pop out this meeting recap. Now you know how Intelligent Recap in Microsoft Teams Premium can help you with your note-taking and task capturing.
Microsoft Forms is an application that's part of Microsoft 365, and it's great for creating forms to collect feedback. You can log into Microsoft 365 through a browser, navigate to the Forms app as you see it here, and you could create a new form right from here. But I'd like to show you how you can work with this Forms app in a team channel, making that channel and that team the one hub for getting all your project work done. So we're going to bring this application into the channel. Let's go ahead and minimize this browser and go back here to the Teams app. And here we are in the feedback channel where we want to set this form up. We'll go to the Add a Tab area here. We'll select it. From that Add a Tab menu, we'll select Forms. Now, I've worked with this recently, so it's in the recent area. Yours might be a few rows down. Once I select Forms, it's going to ask me if I'd like to create this to be able to share it and edit it with other team members, or if I'd like to bring in an existing form. We're going to create a new one, so we'll make sure that that circle is marked. And now we need to give the form a name. We'll call this Project Form. You really can name it whatever makes sense for what the form is about. All right, you'll notice that we can create a recurring survey, and by default, it's going to post about this new tab being added with a new conversation in the post area of the channel. Let's save it. So here is the new project form tab that was just set up. You'll notice it says edit because we are editing this. We have not published this yet. We have not shared it out with anyone else. And if you need to manage this tab, you can select the downward facing arrow and either rename it or remove it. Maybe later on when it's no longer needed, you'll remove it from the channel. We'll click outside of that for now. There are two areas here that you'll work with. One is for setting up the questions, editing the questions. The other is once you have shared it, and you're collecting responses, this is where you're able to go and view and analyze those responses. So for now, let's work here in the questions area. We'll set up our first thing, which is if we want to change the title of this, because this says project form, let's go ahead and update this to event feedback for now. We can also include a description if we want, and let's add a question. So while we're adding a question, you may want more space to view this. So let's go ahead and expand the tab here. All right, that makes it a little easier to see. So it wants to know which type of question are we setting up. This one is going to be text. what is the question. We'd like them to list their full name, so we'll just put full name there. And then this is showing where they'll place their answer. Now I'm going to scroll down a little bit and watch what happens. You'll notice that it takes us out of editing that question. So at any time you can click in this area to be able to get the choices here of copying the question, deleting it, moving it up or down. And also if you'd like to make this a long answer, which will give more space in this field for typing. And also if you'd like to make it required, meaning they have to answer this question. We're going to leave it optional, so we'll leave that turned off for now. All right, let's go ahead and add another question. This question type is going to be a date. So we'll pick the date type. And it wants to know what is the question. Put event date. And they'll input their date. They'll also have a calendar over here they can click on, a mini calendar, to be able to choose that date. We do want to know the date, so we'll make it required. And we're ready to move on to the third question. So we'll select Add New. For this one, it is going to be a rating question. So we're going to select Rating. We'll go ahead and type that question in. It's right down here at the bottom where we're adding that. All right, we're done entering that question. So let's scroll down a little bit here. And now you can see what this question looks like. And they have stars that they can indicate that with. Now let's go ahead and click on this again. You'll notice that I need 10 and this only says 5. So we'll change the levels. We'll make that 10. And we can also change the symbol if we want from stars to numbers. There we go. Okay, let's add one more. So we'll select Add New. For this one, we're going to select the text type. And let's enter the question. And we'll make this a long answer so they have more space to provide more details. Okay. Let's scroll down to the bottom. If we want to add more questions, we could continue, but we're done for now. Let's go ahead and preview and see what it's going to look like. And here's what it will look like on a computer. Now let's switch over to what it will look like if they're viewing this from a mobile device. Here's what it will look like on a mobile device. And I'll use the scroll bar on the device so that you can see what it looks like there. There, starting at the top. Here's what it will look like. Let's select the back button. And if we're ready to share it, we'll select Share. From here, we can copy the link. We can also shorten the URL and then copy that. And then below, you'll notice we have some other choices, like a QR code that we can download, embed code that we can use on a website, and even an email that we can compose. Now, I'm going to scroll back to the top and show you that right now, this is set that only people within my organization can respond to this form. With this drop-down arrow, we could change that to anyone can respond or specific people within the organization can respond. We'll leave it set to the default for now. And that's how you can create a survey with Microsoft Forms in a team channel and then share it out with others. Once a form has been shared, you'll start to get responses, and you can view these responses directly within the channel that the form exists. Here we are in the feedback channel, and we're viewing this project form. Now, in the questions tab area, this is where you can edit the questions. Over here to the right, you'll notice there's a tab called Responses, and the number 2 next to it indicates that there are 2 responses that have been received so far. Let's go ahead and click on this tab and take a closer look. So again, we can see how many responses there are. We can also see that this form is still active, which means we might have some new responses coming in soon. As we scroll on down, you have a way to view individual results. You can also open this in Excel, and we're going to do that here in just a minute. And then for each of the questions, we're able to see the latest responses. So we've got all of the latest responses right here. Now, if we go back up, and if we select Open in Excel, that's going to open it in Excel for the web in the web browser. I already have it open, so let's go ahead and minimize this app. And here it is. Now I've been accessing this already and starting to do a little bit of cleanup. There was a column over here all the way to the left that was called ID. You'll notice here also that there is a column for email address, but it's not collecting any of those email addresses. So that might be something that we want to get rid of as well. And then we can filter things too, right? We could say, I only want to see the results that match a 10, and we could apply that also. Now, if you want to do additional analysis with the results that are coming in and some of the tools are not available for you here in Excel for the web, you can always open this in your desktop application. You'll select editing and then select open in desktop app, and it will switch you and open this file in that desktop application. And that's how you can track responses and start analyzing them with Microsoft Excel. You can add a Microsoft Forms poll to a scheduled private Microsoft Teams meeting before the meeting starts. From the Microsoft Teams app, go to the calendar and select the meeting. At the top, where you see a list of the tabs that are part of this meeting, let's select the plus sign, that's add a tab. Select Forms, then select Save. The Polls tab is added to the top. Let's create a new poll by selecting Create New. Select the type of poll that you would like to create. The settings and the options will vary. Let's create a word cloud poll. For this one, we're not going to have answer options because each participant gets to input their own unique answer. But let's go ahead and type in the question. At the bottom, we can customize the settings. Share word cloud with respondents is checked by default. If you don't want to share that, you can uncheck it. We'll leave that checked. Let's go ahead and keep the responses anonymous as well, but we're not going to allow others to co-author within this poll. Let's go ahead and save as draft. In the All Polls listing, here is the poll that is ready to be launched. Now, this can be launched prior to the meeting in the chat area with all meeting participants or during the meeting. Now you have a poll ready that can be launched in the chat area with meeting participants prior to the meeting or during the meeting. A pre-configured Microsoft Forms poll can be launched during a Microsoft Teams meeting. With the meeting open, select Polls from the toolbar at the top. This displays the Polls pane to the right, where you're able to see all of the polls that you have set up for this meeting. From the top of this area, let's go ahead and launch this cloud poll. We'll select Launch here at the bottom. This presents the poll to all participants that are part of this meeting. Within the chat area, each participant can respond. As responses are received, you'll get a total number of responses here within the card area of the poll, and you're also able to see what that cloud poll looks like with each of the responses, such as file sharing and note-taking that you see in the preview here, and also where it's being shared here within the stage area of the meeting. Now, to view the results, we can go ahead and select View Results right from here. That shows us those same results that we were looking at before. And if we want to, we can go ahead and select the downward facing arrow next to Back to Question and choose to close the poll. Let's go ahead and do that now. Answers will no longer be allowed for this cloud poll. And that's how you can launch and gather responses with a poll. Once you get your project team set up perfectly, as other similar projects are nearing their start, you can use that initial project team as a template to build the next team. Let's go ahead and select Join or Create Team to get started. Next, we're going to select Create Team. And because we want to build this from an existing team, we'll select from a group or team. Next, we'll select Team. And here's a list of all the teams that we can base a new team on. Because we're getting ready for the next conference, we'll select this Red 30 Tech Makers Conference 2. It gives us an opportunity to change the name of that. We'll change that to 3. We can include a description. We can also choose the privacy if we'd like this to be a public or private team. We'll leave that set to private. Let's scroll down a bit. And you'll notice here, there are certain things that are checked by default. And it's what we would like to include from the original team in this new team. We're automating some of that manual work that you would have to do to get the team set up just right. So if we want to include tabs that have been set up within the channels, team settings, and the apps that have been set up, we can leave all of these checked. If we also want to invite the same people, those are the members that we have. We have 5 members and it includes 1 guest. We can check this box. By default, it is going to set up the channels. That's why channels is grayed out right here. Okay, we're ready to set this up. Let's go ahead and select create. We have a notification that's creating the team. We'll go ahead and close that. And over here in the teams listing, here is the new team that we set up. We have a notification that the new team is ready. We'll close that notification. And if we scroll down, here are all of the channels that have been created. And if we go to those channels, you'll notice that all of the tabs that were set up for this are here as well. And that's how you can create a team from an existing team as a template. I'd like to share some keyboard shortcuts and resources to make you as productive as possible when you're working within Microsoft Teams and all of the other Microsoft 365 apps and services that integrate with it. We're going to start in the upper right corner. Next to where your picture or your initials are, that's the account that you're logged in as. There's these 3 ellipses. This is the settings and more. Let's go ahead and select that and take a look at the menu. We're going to go to keyboard shortcuts. This is a listing of all the keyboard shortcuts that work with the Microsoft Teams app, and they have it categorized. So these are the general shortcuts, things like starting a new chat, popping out a new chat. You'll notice there's another area here called navigation. So navigating around the application. As we move on down, shortcuts that relate to messaging. So starting a message, attaching a file, replying to a thread, and then we get into meetings, calls, and calendar. And probably the most popular one right now is toggle mute, Control-Shift-M to mute or unmute when you're in a meeting. So these are some great keyboard shortcuts. You might want to just start taking a glance at these and just memorize a few of them that you would use frequently. Now, if we close out of this, I'm going to scroll back to the top. You'll notice that one of the keyboard shortcuts is show keyboard shortcuts. So if we close out of this, Control period will take you right there. So another shortcut to get to the shortcuts. All right, let's close out of this menu. In addition to those keyboard shortcuts, there are some shortcuts that you can use in the search box here. So if you click in the search box, this is not just for searching for messages, files, and other content. You can also use shortcuts like the / to see a list of things that you can select. Notice a lot of these are your status indicators. If I want to set this to be right back, now I have the yellow clock and my status over here has been updated to the yellow clock, which is be right back. If I go back and I type that / again, if I want to make sure that I'm not disturbed, I don't want anything popping up, any of those notifications popping up while I'm working, then I can change that to do not disturb. You can either select it from the list or type it in just as you see it listed here. So I'm going to type / DND, and I've set my status to do not disturb. Another great one that I think is really useful is no matter where you're working, I might be over here in feedback and catching up on some conversations, or over here looking at the files and I realize I need to send a quick message to a colleague of mine. You can do that right from the search field as well. So I'm going to click in the search box. I'm going to type in @mention, and I'm going to either select the name from the list or I can type a name in. I'm going to select Leslie. And now I'm going to type the message that I'd like to send to Leslie. Press enter. I get a notification that it's sending my message. This is a shortcut for sending a private chat. And I can view that in the chat area. So if I go over here to chat, here's the message that I just sent. But I didn't have to leave where I was working in Teams to get that done. Okay, let's move on down to the lower left corner where it says help. This is built-in help to Microsoft Teams. So if you want to learn about certain topics within Teams, you can select this and it's going to take you to that content. If you want to get more information about training, the official training that's provided by Microsoft, this will take you to their help and learning site. And if you want to find out what's new in Microsoft Teams, if we select what's new, It's going to take us directly to this help area where we can read the latest things that are being released into this application. From this same help area, you can also suggest a feature or give feedback about something. If something's not working quite the way that you think it should, or it could be improved, or whatever it is, you can give that feedback or suggest that feature. Now, the suggest a feature, I'm going to show you that in just a moment because I do have some websites that I'd like to point you to for resources. So let's go ahead and minimize the Teams application. So here is support.microsoft.com. This is the official Office help and training. And you can scroll through the different applications and select it like Microsoft Teams. And then you can type in specifically what you need help with. You can browse the different categories they have here, the different topics, or you can scroll through and see what the latest things are that they're posting about. The next site is an adoption site. This is adoption.microsoft.com, and this provides great resources for your organization and your colleagues to help them with adopting Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365. If you're a Microsoft 365 admin, Microsoft Teams admin, there's great documentation with Microsoft Docs, and you can find that at docs.microsoft.com. This is the Microsoft 365 roadmap, and what's great about this is that you can look at a specific product like Microsoft Teams that's checked right now, and then you can see all of the things that are in development, that are rolling out, and that have been launched. And by selecting one of these, you can then review all the announcements about those things that are being released. If you've shared ideas and upvoted other ideas with user voice, it's changed. It's now the feedback portal, and you can access it here at feedbackportal.microsoft.com. From here, you can select the technology that you'd like to view the ideas for, like Microsoft Teams. You can then upvote those ideas, add your own, and I encourage you, if you're upvoting, add a comment to give more specific details around that. And if there's something that you don't agree with, add a comment and let them know why. This next resource, this is community events, and it's part of the Microsoft Tech Community site. There's many things you can access here. I have it set to community events, but you'll notice over here you can get the latest information about Microsoft events. You can also read blogs by Microsoft MVPs and other technology experts. And if you're on Twitter, you might want to follow at Microsoft Teams to get the latest Teams features and news. Now you should be on your way to being more productive with these shortcuts and online resources, and sharing your feedback for new features, maybe even shortcuts too. Congratulations on completing this course. I hope you have an opportunity to put your project team skills to work. To continue your Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 journey, I recommend these courses. Microsoft Teams Quick Tips by Nick Brazzi, and my courses, Microsoft Teams Automating with Bots, Connectors, and Flows, OneNote Quick Tips, Microsoft Forms Quick Tips, Microsoft Planner Quick Tips, and Tasks in Teams First Look. You can find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Let's keep the Microsoft Teams conversation going. You probably manage projects with many different applications for tracking tasks, communicating with project team members, attending online meetings, capturing ideas, and taking various notes. Think of the time you spend searching for all the project-related content, the app-to-app switching to view and edit documents, and the context switching involved with these processes, how long it takes you to get back to focused work. With scattered project documentation, it may be challenging for you and other project members to stay up to date. I understand the struggles you may incur with these project management methods and techniques, and I'm going to help you unlock how to manage a project with Microsoft Teams. This course includes creating a team and channels, working with files, tracking tasks, connecting SharePoint lists and pages, taking notes, managing meetings, collecting feedback, and keyboard shortcuts. I'm Heather Severino, a Microsoft Certified Trainer and Microsoft Most Valuable Professional for Microsoft Teams. Over my career, I've managed projects large and small, ranging from sports to government technologies. Join me in my LinkedIn Learning course on managing projects with Microsoft Teams.